need books for your reader, for your adolescent reader, but don't have a lot of access, I've got you covered. I'm Dr. Emily Sherwood. If you're interested in books, literacy, and education from a global perspective, please like and subscribe. So, lots of times there are teenagers who have difficulty finding the books that they like. And this is especially true if you've got teenagers who, for whatever reason, don't like to read, or who are reluctant readers, or who struggle to read. Unfortunately, many times school libraries, particularly middle school and high schools, are not the best. They don't have a huge selection. Elementary, it's easier to find books, but it's also very, very important that adolescents read. Probably more important that adolescents read for pleasure than it is for elementary schoolers, in my professional opinion. Because this is the main way that you pick up vocabulary. And there's so much complex vocabulary children need to learn when they're teenagers. So I'm going to show two of my favorite sites here. Again, it is harder to find books for free or for online that are either free or low cost, but they do exist. So this is one of my very favorite resources. It's esl-bits.eu. Now, ESL is English as a second language. However, the books that they have on here are good for anyone, and most of them are pretty high level. They're books that are often taught in schools in middle and high school in the United States. So, and the amount that they have is absolutely amazing. So this is a new thing, the anti-authoritarian novels. Those are novels where they talk about people who are against things. Usually there's some kind of really bad thing happening and somebody rebels. And that's probably because of our political situation right now. But there's all these different books. And then we have all these different things. Many times children will be engaged more if they read something short to begin with. And if you're a teacher, many times you need to find short things for students to read because, a lesson may be only a few days, or the unit that you're doing may be pretty short, so you need something short. So I'm going to go to short stories. Look at that for a minute. Okay, now this is a little bit clunky. What I mean by that is it's a little bit technology isn't very smooth. That's probably because this is a free site. But here's a story, and I'm going to click on it. They will read this to you also. I would be very careful with that. If you have a child who's struggling to read, it can provide engagement. In other words, the child can enjoy reading more if it's read at the same time that the student follows along. However, in my experience and based on research, a lot of kids kind of zone out and they don't actually read when they listen. So I would encourage you to discourage your child from listening to the book as long as the child is at this grade level. So in other words, if you've got a child who wants to read a book that's, a middle school book, but the child, for whatever reason, is still reading at second, third grade level, it may be helpful to listen to it. But I don't recommend that you do that for most of the time. And they've got all these other different ones. And most of these are classics. Like Agatha Christie is a mystery writer, pretty famous in the United Kingdom. And that's because many of these books are copyright free, which means that the author usually has passed away. But some of them are, like Stephen King, still living, fantastic author. David Sedaris is a very famous author. We've got all these different things, and these are like bestsellers. These are all really well-known authors, so really good, high-quality literature. And most of it is literature. Most of this is fiction, but we do have some nonfiction, which is true stories. So this is real life. So Manhunt, about Lincoln's killer. Really interesting for maybe a child who's interested in history. We've got all these different things. The Diary of a Young Girl is a very famous book in the United States and really all over the world. It's a book about World War II and the Holocaust, which was a really sad time when a lot of Jewish people died. And it's a story of a girl who hid in an attic. Not only Jewish people, people of various backgrounds, gypsies, Jewish people, a lot of people who had different faiths, like Jehovah's Witnesses. Anyway, there were a lot of deaths during this time. And this is a story of a girl who hid in an attic, but she ended up going to a concentration camp, and she ended up dying. So many times you read this in school. So again, these are very high quality books. I'm going to show you the table of contents to show you kind of how it works. So This is a diary, so it's different times. So this is her first, and it's like a chapter. And then you have to go back. This is why it's a little bit difficult, especially if you are on like a tablet or a phone, but it's still a great, great resource. And they used to have Harry Potter on here. I'm going to check and see if they still do. So I'm going to go home, and there is no search. So if you are a teacher or someone a librarian, or even just a mom who wants to find stories for your children, there is no search here. So you just have to kind of dig through them. So again, this is a little bit annoying that you have to do that, but they've got all kinds of books. And it might be helpful if you copy and paste the link. You can do that and to the book. So like, for example, if you wanted to read this, you could copy and paste it and put it maybe in a file, and that way your student could just click on it. And there's lots of apps that do that too. So we got out of this. I was going to show you all the novels because there's a lot. So I go to home, novels. Special thanks to Rebecca Bettistoni, who taught me about this site when I was in China. Really good librarian I worked with. Awesome librarian. So see, there's all these different things, and they're done by titles. So again, this is a little bit hard to sort through, but there's probably some things that your student likes. Holes is a very famous book. Johnny Tremaine, historical fiction. Murder on the Orient Express is a mystery. So there's all these different books that are available for free. So it's The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. That's a really adult book. Another thing I probably do need to mention is that most of these books are for adolescents and adults. So if you're concerned about your child having what you might call mature content, in other words, things that your child may not be ready to read about, adult themes, you might want to look at this before you just let the student read whatever. Most adolescents and high school students are able to have maturity to understand. But if you have maybe a gifted student who's younger, or something's going on and you want to make sure that the book honors your beliefs, you can always go in and read it yourself first, or skim through it, or research, just Google each book that you're interested in. And that's fine to do. Okay, so that's ESL-bits, and that is my favorite resource because there's so much. However, the problem with this is, well, there's two problems. The first one is that it's not going to meet everybody's interest. There's not enough. And the second problem is that most of these are, again, pretty high-level books, and it takes a lot for a child who's struggling to read something this big. So I'm going to go to Amazon, and I went to Kindle store, and I typed in soccer because let's say my student's interested in soccer. And there are all these books that are Kindle Unlimited. There's some that are not, and they're still pretty reasonably priced, like $7, $8. But many of them are Kindle Unlimited. Now, what Kindle Unlimited is, if you see this over here, it's yellow and it's gray. That means that the author only has that book in ebook format on Amazon. And you can get the book for free. You borrow the book. I think you can borrow up to 10 books at a time. And it's a subscription service. I believe right now it's $10.99. I think it's $10.99 in the United States. It may have a different price in another country. But in the United States, it's $10.99 a month, and it's unlimited. That's a really good price if you want to encourage a child to read. Usually a book in the United States is at least $15. So this is really a good deal if you're interested, and it even tells you the age ranges. Really, really helpful. Let's say we have a child who is interested in, let's see, the Pope, because we have a new Pope in the world, those of you who are Catholic. See, we've got all these books. Actually, most of these cost a little bit of money, but we've got Pope Francis's autobiography. That means that he wrote it. Again, totally free. We got a history of the popes. We got the bad popes. So that looks really interesting. So you can type in anything, and odds are you will find a book that's either free with the Kindle Unlimited subscription, or it is very low price. Now, for the Kindle, to read the books, you have to have a Kindle app, but that's very easy. And most people don't realize, but you can use the Kindle app on your phone or on your computer. You don't have to have a Kindle. People sometimes think you have to have a tablet, which is a Kindle. You can, but you can also use an iPad, an iPhone, or a computer.